If you've been following our YouTube channel, you'll know that last year I got a new Nissan Navara, and I really love how it delivers for me every single day of the week. And now, well, they've got a new model, and they tossed us the keys to it for a nice long drive up to Ilocos to experience everything that's new with this Navara. Nissan, why do you hate me? So what we have here is the new Nissan Navara Pro-4X. This is the top dog of the Nissan Navara range for 2021, their Halo model, and it comes in a very nice shade of stealth gray, although we kind of joke amongst ourselves, we're calling it primer gray. You also have the VL, which slots in right under this. You have the VE and the EL. And the split in terms of powertrains, you have 4 4x2 variants, as well as 4 4x4 variants. This one is the most capable. So what differentiates the Pro-4X from the other Navara models is really the absence of any kind of chrome. So in the VL, you'd have this in chrome. In the Pro-4X, no. Even the Nissan logo is black, and it has this shade of orange filling in the Nissan letters. Actually, they say it's orange, but in some angles, it does look a bit like red. You look underneath, there's a plastic underrider along with well, the same shade of orange/red. The wheels are different, they're black, and they come with Yokohama all-terrain tires as standard equipment for this version. You also look around the body. Again, you see a lot of the black details. Even the roof rails are black. And then you have, well, the same thing with the back. There are actually more changes with the rear than with the front, so let's go take a look at it. So here is where it gets interesting for the new Nissan Navara, the bed. That is actually the major change with this vehicle. So if you look at them side by side, you can see that there is in fact a difference. There's a smaller gap here compared to the gap right here. Now, we've actually thought that Nissan asked for smaller taillights because it kind of looks odd this way. But no, what they actually did was they raised up the back. So let's open the old one so I can show you. All right, so the bed of this Navara is in inches, 60 inches long, 61 inches wide from here to there. It's 44 inches in between the wheel arches, and it's 19 inches from here up to the top of the, well, the side wall of the bed. Now, in this new model, same thing. You have 60 inches from here to the back of the cab. It's 61 inches wide, and the difference is that it's 21 inches up here. So from here to here, it's 21 inches. They kicked it up. But wait, there's something strange about this vehicle. When I looked at it, for one, Nissan fitted this one with C channels, which is actually very useful if you're carrying different kinds of cargo. You have a very versatile and adjustable tie-down strap source. But here, if it's 21 inches from the top of here down to the floor, here it's only 20 inches. So from here to there. Actually, right here you can see the original level of the bed. What that creates is a slope upward, which is unusual. I actually asked Nissan why they did that. Apparently, it's to make it look better when it's loaded. So if you drove a Navara before, if you load it up with cargo, the back tends to squat a little bit because it's a coil spring rear suspension. But now, with the new Navara, it looks a lot better because it will look more level. And also, the tailgate, well, this one has no helper spring. This one does. So much easier. So here's a side of the Navara Pro-4X. You look here, you got a nice Pro-4X decal. We've seen that before in the Nissan Titan over in North America. It's got this nice fender flare here with the orange tab. Gives it a neat contrast. But what we really wanted to show you was not the wheels, not the design, but what's underneath. The frame has been reinforced to be able to operate the cargo capacity of the Navara. It's got extra reinforcements welded into the frame there, here, and here as well, and it's got a revised mounting point for the bed. Actually, if you measure the bed of this compared to the VL, this is actually 7 inches from here to the top of the wheel. In the previous VL, it only had about 6 inches. All right, so here's the back seat of the Pro-4X. It actually has been improved compared to the previous version. For example, the rear of the center armrest still has those dual AC vents, but it now has a USB port for charging your phone. There is a little recess which looks like it's meant for a ball pen because it's not big enough to accommodate any kind of, well, phone. Unusually, this one does not have the rear seat back pockets compared to the VL that I'm driving every day, which is unusual. But they did revise the upholstery here. It's got this new pattern here, the headrests here, and then one more in the middle. It now has a center armrest, which is nice, and it has dual cup holders here. It did lose the cup holders right here, right down here, along with the umbrella holder. I guess that wasn't a very popular feature for Navara owners. So here's the interior of the new Navara, and yeah, it's actually really a minor change. You do have new upholstery here with the new pattern and then the Pro-4X logo on the seat back. You have the same console here, same shifter arrangement, same controls, even the same looking screen, and the same dashboard. That's kind of weird. We actually wanted Nissan to update and modernize the dashboard much more than this. This being a Pro-4X though, they did make it a bit nicer because they removed some of the silver. I'm not really a fan of the silver that was here. So now it's kind of a matte gray, which matches the look of the vehicle very nicely. Also, in foreign models, we've seen that Nissan has omitted the tray on top of the dashboard. Me personally, I found it to be very useful, if especially in the time of COVID, when I would put my masks right up here to get a bit of heat, kind of disinfect the whole thing. Don't quote me on that, but I found that very useful, along with the 12-volt outlet there for my dash cam. So in this version, I'm glad they retained it. Looking around more of the features of the Navara Pro-4X, okay, you have your same kind of screen. No really big changes here apart from Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. But overall, the features are largely the same. You have here a climate control system, a dual zone climate control system, which is actually nicer. Has the auto mode and all that, the set it and forget it type. Below here, you've got your 12-volt outlet and your 4-wheel drive system controls for your transfer case. Here's where it gets interesting. So you have a parking sensor button here because it now has parking sensors front and rear. My VL from 2020 did not have that unusually. And it also has hill descent control along with a locking rear diff. Yes, that's going to be very, very interesting indeed. Some of the more obvious changes here, of course, is the steering wheel. It's the new, more modern Nissan design. It's no longer got that long horn button that sometimes we tend to tap when we're trying to do a maneuver. The buttons have been updated, voice command, cruise control, audio controls, and the multi-info display control here. You've got your gauges here. It's largely the same as before, but I think the central screen has been updated quite a bit. It looks a lot better and controls some of the functions, particularly with Nissan Intelligent Mobility. So you have forward collision warning, auto emergency braking, blind spot warning, and a few other things. Oh, and even lane departure warning. So that's going to be useful if you're driving on long distances for, yeah, hours on end. Some of the other updates include the black door handles for opening and closing the doors. In some models, they are chrome, not in this one. So in the previous Navara, in the center armrest, you've got one 12-volt outlet and that's it. In this new one, you have the 12-volt outlet plus a USB port plus a USB-C port. So yeah, that's pretty neat. So here's the engine bay of the 2021 Navara. Nothing has really changed visually with the engine. It's still a 2.5 liter, 190 horsepower, and 450 Newton meter of torque turbo diesel engine from Nissan. The transmission options are still a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed automatic, and it's a 7-speed auto for this version. Actually, there are no upgrades here for the 4x4, but if you're looking for a 4x2, those are the ones that actually get the new higher output engine. Well, not new higher output, but it just gets a higher output engine from this one. Before, they only had the 163 horsepower version of this same engine, but in 4x2. The only real improvement with the 4x4 variants is the differential. So if you're looking for a 4x4 and you want a locking differential in the back, all variants of the Navara now get that. None of them do get a front locking diff, but that's really usually reserved for more extreme versions and often modified versions. But beyond the visual and the interior improvements with the Navara, whether you're looking at the standard variants or this Pro-4X variant, some of the changes are really about improving the drive, particularly the steering system. You'd only really notice it if you drive a Navara on a fairly regular basis. But the steering is lighter than before. They actually changed out the steering rack, but it's not electronic power steering light. It's more of kind of a hydraulic power steering plus. It's just been upgraded. The new steering rack also gives a better lock-to-lock ratio. So if you're maneuvering around, let's say, a city with tight streets like Vigan on our way up here, then yeah, you will feel the difference. And also, the improved around view monitor is actually quite good. But the upgrade we're more interested in is in the rear suspension. We've already shown you the bigger brakes that should make for better braking. But what feels better overall is actually the DRS, or the dual rate spring system found in the Navara. Normally you find that kind of a suspension in, say, a performance car, and you can tell by looking at the spring, like I showed you. There's a compressed part, and then there's a section of it that's a bit has gaps, wider gaps in the spring. Provincial roads aren't known for great comfort because it's generally bumpier and a lot of concrete. But the Navara, even with the all-terrain tires, takes it in stride, no problem at all. If you look under the back, those coil springs, there's actually a section of it that's wrapped in rubber or silicone or something, some other material, so that when it fully compresses, it's not making noise. So that's a good thing with this new version. And yeah, if you can see it, we're actually riding over a lot of bumps now. Navara's handling it very, very well. The rattling you hear in the background is actually from our camera and from the stuff we have in the back seat. So yeah, not much noise at all. The bigger benefit is the enhanced payload capacity. Before, the Navara was only rated for, I think, just under 1 metric ton, so just under 1,000 kilograms. This one is rated for 1,100 kilograms. That's quite a big jump. It's about 10% from the previous model. And that's something that's going to be appreciated by a lot of people who really haul with the Navara. And with the revisions to the bed, when you do load it up, it's going to look even better. But what I wanted Nissan to improve on with the Navara really is in the powertrain. Now, I'm not asking for more power. What I actually really want is more torque down low, because, for example, a lot of the competitor models have more torque at around 1600 RPM or around 1800, 1400 RPM. The maximum torque of the Navara comes in at 2,000. So that means you have to rev a little bit higher to get the torque that you need to get moving, especially if you have a load. The other thing about the powertrain, it's the gearing. At around 30 or I think 40 kilometers per hour average, I'm mostly in 2,000 RPM, which kind of makes it fairly inefficient in the city compared to some of its competitors. So for example, if I'm driving around Metro Manila, I'm not surprised if I'm getting around 7 to around 7.5 kilometers per liter. That could be better because a lot of the competitors are doing more than 8. So yeah, on the highway, the fuel economy of the Navara actually improves, but only to around 12 kilometers per liter at an average speed of around 80 kilometers per hour. It's actually okay, but it could be better because a lot of the competitor models are already doing 14 or 15 kilometers per liter with a similar load, meaning like 2 passengers and a little bit of stuff in the back. So nothing significant in terms of cargo in the back. Now, in terms of performance, it's really unchanged. There are no changes to the engine in terms of the power figures or the torque figures. And the gearbox is still the same 7-speed automatic. So, acceleration, you're looking at 12.28 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. That one we tested earlier on our drive using a GPS meter. To put that in perspective, when we drove the Hilux Conquest a few months ago, it was able to do the same sprint in just over 10 seconds. It's actually interesting that Nissan brought us to the Lawag Sand Dunes to be able to sample the new Navara. We brought the original version of this D23 here before in 2015, and we had a blast. But it was very, very difficult back then because we were on highway tires. In this new Navara, with the 4-wheel drive in this Pro-4X trim, these all-terrain tires made it so much easier. I didn't even have to pressure down to be able to make it through without having any problems. But that wasn't the case for everyone. Now we need to answer the important question. Are the improvements on this version of the Navara good enough? It depends really on your point of view. Me, from what I do every day, and also I drive a Navara already every day, well, the upgrades aren't good enough. Yes, there are a lot of really nice upgrades here. The wheels, the new look, the new headlights, the new seats, and the bed and the rear suspension. Yes, there are a lot of really good upgrades. But I don't think it's enough for me to actually switch from my current Navara to this one, good looking as this one may be. But if you were on the fence about getting a Navara before, then a lot of the upgrades and the new look will make a lot of sense, and it may send one into your garage if you so choose. Now we come to the price. Nissan actually hasn't given us that yet, which is why we're a bit hesitant to call this actually a full review, even though we drove it for quite a bit, a total of about 700 or 600 kilometers just to get up here to Ilocos Norte. However, what we can tell you is that the pricing of this, according to our friends at Nissan, will be very competitive compared to similar variants or head-to-head competitors in the category. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com. If you found this video useful, please tap that like button. You can also subscribe and follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter.